it got so big that that the author actually wanted to, and we've discussed this in the past episode, wanted to bring Sherlock Holmes in on one of the chapters, since one of the last chapters of the book.
Arthur Conan Doyle did not want this.
He did not.
He did not want this, but one of the it's like a tale as old as time. You want to see the best go against the best, and that's why you have like Marvel versus DC and things like that.
Just a reminder, this is a spoiler-heavy podcast. Different series that require a spoiler warning will be in the description. Hi everyone, this is Leo, the Geek Scorpio, just letting you guys know that this episode was recorded originally at TreeFort 2024 in Boise, Idaho. Please enjoy this recording of our live broadcast from TreeFort 2024.
For exposing said music.
True.
And all of the DJs.
Yeah.
All right, so with that being said, let's get started. Hi, my name is Leo. I'm with, I also go by the call sign Geek Scorpio. I am the head of Gaming Theater Podcast, and today's podcast episode, we're going to be talking about Gentlemen Thieves and the archetype and sort of the storytelling aspect of Gentlemen Thieves. So, to get me through this episode, I've got several guests with us that have been on several episodes of Gaming Theater Podcast. Over to my left, I'm going to start with...
You can call me Aram the Red, and I've hung out with Leo multiple times.
Yep, and over
friend.
next to them is going to be...
I'm Liz. I also go by Zombie Hand. I do a lot of work with GTP. I'm also an artist. You can find me at Zombie Hand Creations on Twitter.
All right, and over to my right...
I am Ben. I also go by El Penguin or El Penguin Gym. A lot of my stuff is usually nerdiness, fitness, a combination of both. And I just kind of pop in a GTP every now and then.
And finally, to this right is going to be...
Hello, my name is Dane. I go by DandDaine. It looks like Diane. It's not, I promise. There's a long story. Ask me about it sometime. And I am an award-winning DM and content creator. And I love being a part of GTP. And I was sitting in this chair earlier this morning. So
yeah, the same chair.
If you were in this room then, welcome back.
So what we're talking about today is about Gentlemen Thieves. Now, normally in an episode, we'll go straight to our magical merch booth, but we don't have that kind of time. So we're just going to go straight on to the episode for this. So to understand what a Gentleman Thief is, we kind of have to backtrack to where your origins of what Gentlemen Thieves are. And actually, that origin goes into a gentlemanly detective. And that has to start with Sherlock Holmes. So Sherlock Holmes is written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and what happens is that he makes this detective, which basically, for lack of a better term, freelance, artsy detective. The whole point of him is like, they could hire him for law enforcement, they choose not to. And he's like, no, I'm just doing this for the lulz. Mostly for what Sherlock Holmes is looking for is a skillful criminal that he wants to bring down. He wants to do that investigation. So if we take the flip side to that, another author who's in that same genre is
Maurice Leblanc.
Yeah, thank you, Maurice Leblanc, and he creates Arsene Lupin, who is the archetype and the origin of your gentleman thief. Most of what we have as a gentleman thief is a case from this character. So here's how Arsene Lupin works on that. For him, criminal activities are not crime. For him, criminal activities are artwork or a set of challenge. Does he need the money? It never comes. I've been reading through the novel. It never comes up. As far as he knows, he's like, oh, I want to see what this challenge is going to be. Like literally, the first chapter of the book is him trying to sneak on a boat to get to America from England, just to make sure, just to find out if I can not get caught on a boat to get to America from England. Hilariously, they have a 10,000 franc reward for arresting him. And what happens is that he tricks a bunch of guards into arresting a lookalike of him, takes his place, puts himself in jail, leaves that jail, and then with a note that says, hey, but guys, thanks for the 10K, and bails.
Early days social engineering. And,
exactly. And one of the things that happens in that storyline is that somebody starts putting together that this is Arsène Lupin, and doesn't want to rat him out because she wants to see how if he can pull this off. That's the other part of this archetype. You want to see the crime happen. You want to know if they can get away with it. Now with that, it got so big that that the author actually wanted to, and we've discussed this in the past episode, wanted to bring Sherlock Holmes in on one of the chapters. Is one of the last chapters of the book.
Arthur Conan Doyle did not want this.
He did not.
He did not want this, but one of the it's like a tale as old as time. You want to see the best go against the best, and that's why you have like Marvel versus DC and things like that, and like the epic rap battles of history that are always super fun. And so Maurice Leblanc wrote, he started writing chapters with Sherlock Holmes going against Arsène Lupin. And he got a couple chapters in and was publishing them. So back in the day, books were actually published by the chapter first and then collected later. And he started to write this, and then Arthur Conan Doyle came out and was like, no, copywritten, you can't do that. Don't put Sherlock in your story. So he actually, Arthur Conan, or Maurice Leblanc went back to the writing board and was like, how can I get past this copyright? What can I do here? And he swaps the S from Sherlock to Holmes and makes Herlock Sholmes. So,
nailed it.
So if you ever see Arsène Lupin against Herlock Sholmes, it's meant to be Sherlock. But can I go into one other thing I found out?
Real quick.
Okay, so I also found out that a lot of times when people wanted to do something with Sherlock, the Doyle estate, they would get into legal battles because people wanted to make Sherlock Holmes more eccentric or empathetic or something, and that's not who Sherlock Holmes is at all. So if you actually could potentially get into a legal battle if you try to publish Sherlock Holmes showing emotion.
Besides depression, that is, right?
Yeah.
Depression and addicted to drugs.
Yeah. Because that's not very eccentric.
Yeah.
Not eccentric enough.
I
find it a little
found
bit
that
funny.
out the other day. It made me laugh.
Oh,
So.
that's really good. I do find it a bit funny that even back in the day, you had nerds being like, "Who'd win in a fight, Sherlock Holmes or Lupin?" Like, "Oh, it's got to be Sherlock Holmes. I mean, he's undefeated, right?" Like, no, that's not how that would happen at all. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's good to know that nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Of course, the author usually has a bias, and
Sure.
Arsène Lupin obviously won.
I mean,
against Herlock.
I guess
Against the knockoff. So you bump into this situation, and during this time, this is the gentleman style. So gentleman thief, gentleman detectives. That's important for this sort of time as far as literature. The next big one that will come out of that is Agatha Christie, and who does a ton of gentleman styles. Like, that was the thing. You go to a party. You're hanging out at this public event. Oh no, there is a murder. Foul. It's always most foul, and then after which, we can't leave until we discover this murderer.
Does that imply the existence of a non-foul murder?
In this case, yes.
'Cause that's odd.
That's a straight up murder. That's one of those like, we have killed him, and I did it.
Got him.
I think
Nailed
most
it.
crime scenes don't allow people to leave until they at least can rule you out as a suspect.
I believe that's the case.
I think that's how that happens.
Yes, but this time it's fancy.
So you bump into these different stories. Like, the next major one that you bump into won't be for like 40 plus years. And that's when we get into the anime Lupin III, ironically enough. So Lupin III is made by this company called Monkey Punch, and it's created in 1867. So a manga in 67, which will become an anime, but not until almost the 70s and 80s, and it's one of the earliest adult-centric anime that's out there. When they mean adult-centric, as in, we are not targeting the children. This is specifically, we want people over the age of 20 to read these things, which is interesting for anime's sake, because anime starts, because of how their connections are with Disney, end up being targeted to children until about the 60s or 70s. So the reason why this brings up is that he makes Lupin the Third, and Lupin the Third is in canon the third generation of Lupin. But also with that, you bump into an interesting archetype of he is a thief, and he is this gentleman thief. He wants to steal all these things, and most of the time he gets away with it. However, if there's someone out there who is also doing these crimes that are worse, then he will point every police officer to them and leave at the last second so he doesn't get caught. What is it? Someone did the famous movie I think is Castle of Cagliostro.
Castle of Cagliostro.
Castle of Cagliostro. Yeah. And someone's kidnapping a princess. Literally, Lupin's there to steal something and decides, nah, let's go deal with this. Goes through all of his thieving, gets to the end, saves the day, and leaves. What you have, interestingly enough, is also the villain for these, or not your villain, but more of your anti-Lupin.
Anti-hero?
Well,
anti-Lupin.
Less gentlemanly thieves.
So it's a weird trope called the Zenigata, which is named after Zenigata. This is
who's the inspector, right?
Inspector Zenigata. Well, yeah, because it's inspector because he works for Interpol.
So it's named for him.
It's named for him.
Interesting.
So here's your take with your police officers. Sometimes you have the ones like Sherlock Holmes, which is bumbling, and just tripping over themselves. So we need Sherlock to come help us. Zenigata falls under a different category. He is very, very good at his job, and he is constantly taking down some of the biggest and roughest criminals out there. He still can't catch Lupin. That's his white whale. That's the one he needs to get his hands on.
I do find it funny that he is sort of shown as like this competent inspector, this very crack kind of dude, but who, when he fails to catch Lupin, it's always done in like a humorous or like ridiculous sort of way, very slapstick.
Very much
like,
slapstick.
Here's this like very competent inspector, and he's getting a pie in the face or whatever, you know.
Well, at that point, just kind of develops the relationship between the thief and the inspector, where now it's just a game of cat and mouse between them. Mm-hmm. But I mean, much like Tom and Jerry, why wouldn't Lupin want to end it off with a little laugh at the end?
Exactly.
True. Fair.
So these are the major archetypes we have for your thieves as far as your gentleman thieves go. So usually they're here because they want the challenge. They're not here for, most of the time, they're not here for the money. They're here because they want to steal that priceless artifact.
So it's not like a personal thing, like I need to steal for survival or something like that. They just see something and go, I bet I could do that.
Yeah.
It's the thrill of the challenge, because I can't help but think with some gentleman thief, the budget where they get to pull off some of their thievings. It's like, this isn't just someone trying to go for survival. No, they will take it and then try to find some place to retire. This is probably just some rich 1%er going by thinking, I could probably find some way to get more rich for fun.
Well, wasn't there, when we were doing the research for it, I think we found someone who would steal things and be like, yes, I did it, and then just like return the thing or like leave it behind somewhere. We're like, yeah, I did it, but that's all I wanted was the challenge. I didn't want to keep it or sell it on the black market.
There's a few master level criminals in the 70s and 80s that did that. Probably the most famous of something like that, ironically, wasn't a very gentlemanly guy. The Mona Lisa gets stolen by literally a guard who's like, hang on, the Mona Lisa needs to be shouldn't be in the Louvre where it's held underneath the French museum. It should be in an Italian museum. That's the logic. He steals it, and then after he takes it, he goes back home to his apartment and realizes, oh no, I have just stolen the Mona Lisa. It's fine if nobody is paying attention. Which becomes one of the largest art heists in history at the time. And he's like, oh no, I'm going to get caught. I have made a horrible mistake.
I feel like out of all the things you could steal, that's like one of the ones that you don't want to go missing. It's hard for me to think of anything art or expensive value-wise in terms of things you don't want to lose. Yeah. Mona Lisa's up there.
Yeah.
Top 5 at least.
Here's the irony of that. Essentially, the heat gets all around him, but he does not get caught at all. And what happens is that he's like, well, now the Mona Lisa is so important of a piece, I should really put it in the best museum on Earth, which is at the Louvre, and he puts it back.
Is that like a reverse heist?
Yeah. I gotta
unheist your heist.
He really thought that through, didn't he?
Yeah, he did not. Well, it's kind of interesting because if you go through films and filmography for that, as cool as Gentlemen Thieves are, the most famous of most of those films are not based upon the stories of Gentleman Thief. They're based upon the story of an actual crime called the Great Train Robbery, and that's and that crime for the train robbery is literally a massive plan, a large, intricate plan to literally steal gold from a train towards the beginning of the century. But it ends up getting all this hype for it because it's so intricate of a plan to get that robbed. It took like, I think 20 plus people in very specific spots on a very specific time day, on a very specific moment. And I've got the research and it'll be in the future cast for that when we get into more heist teams. But that's where we get those stories from. That one is where it is. So Gentlemen Thieves fall off because now you have an actual crime like that. However, there are other Gentlemen Thieves that have done stuff like that. Probably another famous one, and it was the go-to for the story of Catch Me If You Can. That film was Frank Abagnale Jr., whose skill was counterfeiting, and ended up stealing millions and millions of dollars from counterfeiting checks all over the world. But yeah, another key take of a gentleman thief is violence is never the answer or is very shunned upon. They're not here to hurt people. They're here for the crime.
They just want the thrill.
They just want the thrill.
There was, again, during like all our research, we were trying to find what defines a gentleman thief, because we know Arsène Lupin was one of the first, or like the first, to really be serialized. But people will disagree because some people say gentleman thieves are thieves who dress nicely. But like, isn't that more like a dapper thief? And then, you know, there's ones that say, you know, violence is okay, but not against the innocent, or, you know, there's like a lot of different ideas of what a gentleman thief is. But I think Arsène Lupin embodies that, like where it is, it's for the thrill. It's for, you know, he's not there to commit violence. Maybe he's well-spoken. Who knows? I don't know.
The morals may be a little gray and fuzzy, but there's a line.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. There is a line for that. That line is what separates him from being, at least especially in the gentleman thief's eyes, from being a common thief to a gentleman thief. Now, the thing is that because he has, these thieves will have a set of rules, these are the rules that they abide by. If you want an interesting video game-based example, probably the most interesting gentleman thief is Carmen Sandiego. Honestly, you know, I'll give it up to Carmen Sandiego. What did he commit? You know, grand larceny. We have to put an extra grand on it. Steals a national monument.
And she's also gone back through time.
Yeah, steals pieces from time.
I used to have Carmen Sandiego books that were like, Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego? And obviously Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Yeah,
arguably one of the most gentlemanly thieves out there.
Yeah. She can never be caught. She's too rad for that.
Yeah. We still don't know where she is.
Yeah, don't know. Gets away with it. Leaves.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Like, I would love a live-action Carmen Sandiego movie and have just one of the agents being there. Just, all right, I need you to catch Carmen Sandiego. Really? She just stole the Seattle Space Needle. And I'm not saying like part of it, the entire Seattle Space Needle.
We don't even know where she put it.
Yeah. How do you hide a 1,000-foot tall building?
Very carefully. I hope that this movie has all the pun names for villains in it.
Oh my God, you have to. Like Just in Time.
Double Trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, what is it?
In one of the books I had, it was a lot of like Just in and then Time, of course. There was like Rest in Peace.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. It was ridiculous and I loved it.
Oh, they had some that was like I think it was something larceny is one of them.
It's like Grant Larceny.
Yeah,
Grant
Grant
larceny. That's
Larceny.
the word I was thinking of. Yeah.
You know, I'm beginning to suspect that Carmen Sandiego may not actually be her real name.
What gives you that impression?
Just a hunch, I guess.
So the irony is Carmen Sandiego's inspiration was Indiana Jones, hence the title of the name and such. But Indiana Jones looks for our artifacts and is basically a treasure hunter. So they wanted a thief instead.
Totally different. Thieves and treasure hunters.
Somebody has a list of some of their favorites.
Oh yeah, that's what my
There's Rusty Hinge,
Oh my god.
Patty Larceny, probably Petty Larceny.
Yeah.
Dr. I'm a Lizard. Diplomacy. Anyway, they were very
Good times
creative.
from childhood.
I think that formed part of my humor growing up.
That might explain why we all love puns as much as we do.
Oh yeah. So if you want, so a large thing about the Gentleman Thief is they're all style and less about substance. So the next big Gentleman Thief that we'd probably bump into is you could have a team of Gentleman Thieves, which is not the original, but the remake to Ocean's 11. The original one was an excuse to have everybody in the Rat Pack to make a movie in Vegas and get paid for it. Literally, that's how it starts.
Well, that's kind of how we started.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. But there's in the remake they have everyone is like in suits or in dress shirts and such. You're not played by your lead role is George Clooney at the time of his game. Your second is Brad Pitt. These are not people who embody the whole thieving culture on that. But they're all pros and experts at what they do. And it's very important because essentially they make this huge heist, and the whole point is we're stealing so much money, so many things, and then we just walk away, leave.
We've made our point.
And
But sometimes that's all you need is just to make your point.
no, this would normally fall under the category of just being a regular thief if it wasn't for the fact that half of this is out of spite.
Oh, it's an absolute spite play.
Yeah, it's all spite play.
Screw that guy in particular.
Because and this is a spoiler-heavy podcast if you don't know about that. But yeah, in part of that movie, essentially, it's like, just tell me that the reason why you're robbing this is to rob the money, and you're not trying to get back at the guy who stole your wife.
Crickets.
It's not entirely that.
It does have a little overlap with a book series. I see some similarities anyway. If you've ever seen the Gentleman Bastards.
Oh yeah,
The Lies of Locke Lamora. Yeah, with Jean and Locke. It has some,
the Lies of Locke Lamora?
yeah.
Oh, that's been on my wish list
little
for a while.
similarities there.
But so arguably, does your Gentleman Thief have to be a gentleman? If they have the Gentleman Thief attitude, but not necessarily the persona, you can get away with it in some cases. Tangled, Flynn Rider is, by all accounts, a Gentleman Thief on that.
Not Smolder, though.
Yep.
Flynn Rider is one of the best Disney princes.
True.
If only
I
he
do-
could get his wanted poster right. It's like
It's always
that's
the nose.
I feel like that's also a sign that of another Gentleman Thief is, yes, I may look like a criminal, but you still gotta make me look good at least.
Yeah.
Make sure to get my right side. It's the
I have
good
a
side.
I have a question
Yeah.
about a potential. And maybe it's wrong because there is a lot of violence that happens in it, but what about Nathan Drake from Uncharted? He does kill probably
I'd
like
say falls more into the treasure hunter.
Yeah,
That's
he
true.
and
I mean,
Laura
he
both,
is-
I think, are more treasure hunters.
okay. That
Which
makes sense. I
means
mean,
that
he
he-
is based off of like Tomb Raider and Indiana Jones, but he does steal a lot of things with the intent of like, I found it. I can say that I knocked that off my list, but
But he's not really the most dapper while he does it, though.
no, he's very charming though.
Oh, charming.
He's
is
got the
that.
charisma.
yeah.
That Nolan North. So good.
Yeah, if he did it in the suit, then maybe there'd be some.
He does do one in a suit in the beginning of Uncharted 4
It was
and
just
3.
one. It was just twice. The numbers aren't in his favor right now.
Although, if you want one that's a big host of the PlayStation saga, Sly Cooper could fall into
Oh,
that.
yes.
Yep.
His family quite literally wrote the book on thieving, aka the Thievius Raccoonus, I believe it was called. But what I love most is that in the fourth game, they always talk about how much it's always been a family business ever since like way back in the past, back in the caveman times. They didn't prove that until the fourth game, where they finally decided we should time travel. So,
Because why not?
Yeah,
because why
like
not?
one does.
So even going through the history of it, we end up coming across Ryuichi Cooper, a full-on ninja, who his whole backstory on it is he invented sushi just so it'd be easier to steal from people and lords. He would find them over, like legit. That was a huge part of the plot. It's like, all right, he made his restaurant. Lords will come by, they do all things. All right, they're all here. Guess nobody's home.
100% would work on me. Just
Right.
throwing that out there.
But it doesn't even get there. It's like, okay, we got the ninjas. Apparently, he has an ancestor who was a knight. And like, okay, we are not going to Robin Hood trope on this, are we? We absolutely are going on this.
Yeah, speaking of which, Robin Hood.
Oh my God.
Right.
I think we have that
Gentlemanly,
listed
yeah.
as your mileage may vary
Sure.
on Robinhood, but
I guess depending on
Yeah.
who's writing him, because he does kind of bridge that gap between thief, do-gooder, and action hero, depending on
Yeah,
what media you find them in.
Depending on which variation you come across.
Yeah.
There is an argument for Robin Hood as that, but also an argument by that definition, also no argument for Goemon Ishikawa, the legendary ninja.
Yeah, which also ties back to Lupin.
Yeah, it also ties that.
True. The anime, not the book.
Not the book.
I don't think.
No, they're he's mostly operates in Europe,
Yeah.
not in Japan.
Yeah.
So it doesn't come up very often.
I didn't remember it coming up in the book much.
Goemon's story is borderline about the gentlemanly part, since he was taken in after attempting an assassination.
True.
I just call it a whoops-a-doodle.
It's a little assassination as a treat.
Yeah. There's one other in there related to Goemon and Lupin, Nezumi Kozo, which in Lupin shows up as Rat Boy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was another thief from around the same time period as Goemon, who got away with a huge heist against more noble samurai. I think he came out with, 30 grand in real, which was the gold coins at the time.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Huge amount of money for that time period.
Oh, there was one. I'm trying to remember what but yeah, so those are some of those big thieves. Probably the most recent gentleman thief I can think of outside the remake of Arsene Lupin. There used to be, so let me backtrack a bit. There's a channel called USA Network. USA Network had this thing that they were going to start, which is and this is basically ancient TV nowadays. What they would do is that they would, while everyone's doing their show, it always starts in the fall and then it ends by May or April, and that's the end of your season. What USA Network wanted to do was change it around, and they're like, you know what? Let's do a couple of short episodes specifically for summer, and that's it. So they started with their pilot for that one, which was a show called Burn Notice, which is about a spy who gets burned and can't operate past Miami, Florida, and is trapped there until he figures out why all these things are happening. The reason why I bring that up is because in that same vein, you have other shows that are coming out. Royal Pains, which is about a doctor in a similar vein, but spending the summers up north in the Hamptons. But for our purposes, intent was a show called White Collar, which is about a thief who was an art thief who stole ridiculous amounts of levels of art and just hung on to it. And essentially what he would do is that he would steal his artworks by replacing the artwork with an original painting that he did, which is a copy of that artwork. And so he would just keep doing this over and over and over again until he eventually got caught at some point by going into depression and forgetting to leave.
Whoops.
Who has
Just as a lapse in the middle of his heist and just decided, I'm going to lay down here.
I'm just going to lay down here.
That's how my
Cops come and
depression
he's like,
works.
I'm done. And
It's
so
like, I'm too sad to go. Like, a jail cot sounds pretty comfy these days. I mean,
so it's kind of interesting because what happens is the show is that he gets he finds a policy to allow him to work with the police, with the FBI, as long as he can still as long as he's still as a sort of a work release program for that. So he gives them all the subverted things for high grade art thieves and other white collar thieving and such, whilst at the same time doing his service. But also, he still knows what he's about and was trying to figure out a way to, how can I also get tons of money and leave?
So he is in it for the money.
He's in it for the money eventually. At first, no, he's just in it to just solve these crazy.
Depression medications cost a lot of money.
Not very gentlemanly. I'm just throwing that out there.
Like,
No,
Liz,
he's
at some point, like, you gotta be able to fund your own thieving. At some point, like, the inflation these days is ridiculous.
It's less of a thieving and more of a retirement plan.
Sure.
But his biggest focus is just getting everybody else busted that are also these high grade thieves. Because one of the things with gentlemen thieves and such is not getting caught, and a lot of them so actual criminals of that caliber tend to have regular 9-to-5 jobs and basically go on report themselves going on vacation for about a week or two, and then actually committing the crimes that they need to, and then come back. Essentially, the most dangerous criminals that you have to deal with are the ones that are not getting caught.
So much for Honor Among Thieves.
Yep.
Another one. This one is kind of like, I guess it is like gentleman thievery, but also like a lot of nods to historical thieves. I'm going to bring up Persona 5, the video game.
I think we're all waiting for you too. We wanted you to broach that subject.
I love this game, and
It's
I'm also
amazing. It's so
replaying
good.
it with my sister. And
Royal is incredible.
it's so good. She's in love with it too. But there's a lot of nods to, especially Arsène Lupin and Maurice Leblanc. So the cafe that's like their hideout is called Leblanc Cafe. The main character, Joker, he has a lot of similarities to Arsène Lupin himself, and his persona is Arsène, who looks super cool. But a lot of his animations, and in fact, like his scene in the very beginning of the game where he gets caught, is a direct reference to Arsène Lupin. But then there's another character named Yusuke, whose persona is Goemon.
Yep.
And a lot of them are like historical. I don't know all of them.
There's Robin Hood's one.
Oh, Robin Hood is one. And there's Zorro.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh no, Robin Hood is not one. There's Captain Kidd.
Oh, Captain Kidd.
They're all thieves. Not all of them are gentlemen thieves.
They
But
just all fall under the thief spectrum of things.
yes, that's the main one. But the main characters of the game try not to do any violence. They actually are very careful to, like, they want to help change society, but they do it in a way that doesn't hurt people. They actually don't want to, like, kill people at all or hurt people. So they try and do it in a way where it's kind of like, it's a fun kind of corny. They change their hearts in a way. And I love it so much. But yeah, a lot of them, I mean, it does seem like a lot of it is actually based on Lupin himself.
No, but the whole game is centered around thieving anyway.
Yeah,
that's-
and they're all thieves. They're stealing treasure, but it's to help change people's hearts so that they become better people.
I do find it a bit interesting that Japan as a whole has seemed to carry the Lupin myth forward more than probably any other country. They have a children's superhero show, Power Rangers-esque, if you will, Sentai for those who are in the know. Kaitou Sentai Lupinranger versus Keisatsu Sentai Patranger, which is basically cops and robbers, with
The
one
Lupin
team.
Rangers.
Yes, one team being, it's translated as Phantom Thief Squadron Lupinranger versus Police Squadron Patranger. And the first arc of the show, spoilers, is the cops trying to catch these Phantom Thieves.
Is Sherlock in it?
I don't remember. I don't think so, but that would be cool.
I'm
But
just imagining the dapperness of all the posing. That
oh,
must be
it's
happening.
incredible. They all of Lupin. They have top hats and capes, and their transformation gadget's a mask. It's wonderful.
Did France just say we don't care about Lupin anymore? But Japan was like, we'll take him.
Yeah, we got him.
Say.
We got an anime, we got manga, we got video games, we got the superhero show. So yeah, you got like Power Rangers, but it's Phantom Thieves.
It's not uncommon to hear some nation actually taking over like the canon for something, which is a weird way to say it, because you have the most westerns were made in Italy, of all things, because it's big there. A lot of A lot of horror films and such are that are made, especially ones based around Stephen King's style of horror and such, are presented in Maine or Minnesota, in those woodsy areas, but they're really popular in Europe for some reason. Famously, or what's interestingly, like the old show Supernatural, one of the reasons it kept on the air so long is because even though its ratings were fluctuated a lot here in the United States, it was a powerhouse in Australia, and it was cheaper to just let it keep making it. Well, because it was just that nation was carrying the show for the most part.
You just called Supernatural old, and I died inside.
Look, it's a decade after that, and they have another remake on there, and I think they're trying to reboot that again.
Stop it. I can't handle you right now.
For God's sakes, the Winchesters aren't around anymore. How much farther can we take?
The Winchester children or cousins, I bet.
Legacy media.
Yeah.
Is that a better term?
Into the supernatural verse.
That's a whole nother season. We could do a season on Supernatural of podcasts. Yeah, no.
Supernatural podcast. Did I not get that memo now? Is that like where we're...
It was one day.
I only watched 10 seasons.
Only 10. Is that it?
My sister and I kept on with it for a really long time.
Sounds like rookie numbers to me.
You got to like 7 or 8 and you're like, I could do like 2 more.
We should have stopped after 5, but we kept going.
Don't get me wrong, I'm throwing shade, but I was in that same boat with you. I 10, 11
It was
seasons.
mine and my sister's show for a long time. We would, every Thursday, we would meet up and we would watch it, and a few other shows that were infinitely less good.
Yeah.
Like Ghost Adventures.
But yeah, so like that's one of those things. Ghost Adventures. That's one of those things like
Zach Baggins.
that you end up carrying over from where One Nation will pick up the show and be more interested and just wanting to carry that legacy for that storyline or those stories over. And it's just a weird take for that one.
Just like the legacy of Lupin.
Yeah.
To tie that back in.
Would you... Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're fine. I did have a question. Maybe you know, Liz.
What?
So there's a manga out there, Moriarty the Patriot, that has Sherlock Holmes in it, directly named. Do you think that they're in trouble with the Doyle estate?
I'll Google it. Give me 4 minutes.
I think probably like maybe they've never heard of it, or at the very least, like I don't know how much of a leg
Japan
the
is a
Doyle
catch from
estate
everything,
has
right?
these days.
Yeah.
They're no Tolkien estate, I can tell you that much.
Yeah. No, the Tolkien estate it's rough. If you ever look into, there's a reason why Dungeons and Dragons had to change like half of their entire.
Oh yeah, Balrogs were in first edition.
Yeah, and then
you could fight a Balrog, and then Tolkien was like, "Stop it!" They're like, "Okay, Baelor." It looks exactly like a Balrog, but it's legally distinct. Don't question it.
Totally no similarities.
Yeah,
Please don't sue.
tree ents? No, tree folk.
Like, what? No.
Halflings. They're like hobbits, but they're half human.
Like, no, they're just
Or maybe they're not.
cousins? Question mark.
Yeah.
Ironically, the Thief of Lupin is never needed to be legally distinct. It's always the Thief Lupin.
That's a good point.
When
Do
did-
you think they just didn't care? Like the estate was like, use it. We don't-
Yeah, we're fine. But it's they because Netflix had a Lupin series that was going on for a while, and I really liked it, but I didn't get a chance to watch as many as I wanted to.
I've heard it's
But
good.
It is super good.
Really quick, the copyright for Sherlock Holmes actually expired January 1st, 2023. So a little over a year ago.
Public domain, baby.
Yeah. There we go.
Steamboat Willie's there too.
So now I'm going to write my Sherlock Holmes fan fiction and publish it.
No one can stop you.
No,
Except
not even
for
the
maybe someone who I don't know.
not even the Doyle estate can stop me. Wait, when did the Arsene Lupin? I might have to write my romance.
Ooh, you ship them?
It's like, now just
She's got it
try
under control.
It
stopping
ships
me
itself.
legally.
I mean, I don't know. Zenigata is pretty handsome.
Yeah.
That one.
What about Watson? Should I leave Watson out of your fanfic?
Depending on how complicated you want your fanfic. So Watson, I'll do a quick thing.
Love triangle, maybe.
Watson is originally considered as the as an archetype for the insert for your audience. Watson's the one who asked the questions. But Holmes, how did you discover this? Because
Yeah, we're not smart enough to keep up with
as the audience. We're like, what? Yeah, how did you discover this? That's pulling on a lot of strings here, buddy.
I do have one minor gripe. And so everyone who has probably read or experienced a Sherlock anything at some point is like, oh, deduce this thing. We're going to deduce this and deduce that.
Are you
'Cause
calling
Sherlock
out
Holmes
Ace Attorney? Because I
deduced.
will fight you.
It's not deduction. It's induction.
Yeah.
He does induction.
No,
It's wrong.
Liz,
And I know,
You're gonna
I know
have to
that's
take
a
this up with
semantic
Capcom.
thing, but I had a professor when I was getting one of my undergrads in philosophy who was like, it's induction, and it's lived in my brain forever. So Sherlock Holmes, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, you're wrong. It's not deduction. You don't deduce those things that way. It's not how it works.
I'm intrigued.
You induce them.
Also, Arsène Lupin entered the public domain in 2012.
Oh.
Speed track, okay. 11 years before.
Arsène Lupin does everything better and first.
Better's a strong term. Oh my.
I would challenge you with that with the art.
But you love Arsène Lupin, so
How can you not? But Sherlock
Yeah.
Holmes is also, well, I wouldn't say lovable. He's kind of a bad man. But
yeah. He's
a smart bad man.
yeah.
He's a little
I
too
mean, I
smart
guess
for
He
him.
got demons. That's all I'm saying.
He does
Yeah.
got
We all
demons.
got demons, but he got demons.
He does the meth for a reason.
No, Leo, you were going on about Arsene before, just generally doing the crimes, mostly for the challenges, just to see if you could do it, right?
Right.
I was thinking about this, that there is someone that's more of a modern day equivalent to a certain extent, and that'd be Kevin Mitnick, the notorious hacker and social
Yes.
engineer,
Oh.
now in charge of KnowBe4, which is like a cybersecurity organization.
Is he
But,
like a white hat hacker? Gray hat?
Previously,
Black hat?
I think it's a white hat hacker when you get to that point.
These days. Well, because they got to put a nice label on it, right?
yeah.
Okay, what about Zorro?
The One Piece character?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Getting a little lost there, Dane.
Would he be considered like a gentleman thief or just
No,
a
he
thief?
falls under the category of vigilante superhero.
Oh, yeah.
He's more like a Batman.
He never
Okay.
really
He's
like.
cutting people.
Good for that guy.
Well, let's backtrack. You did mention Phoenix Wright, which heavily reminded me of Mask the Mask. the gentlemanly thief that took multiple stories in that to pull off, because apparently wasn't the actual Mask the Mask was trying to find someone else to play him to get arrested for his crime, while he got arrested for a different crime. Therefore, he didn't get arrested for the thieving crime.
He was actually a really good character, and his wife was incredible.
Objection? I feel like I should say objection.
Silent.
All right.
I'm just convinced that Phoenix Wright was just a hell loop, that anybody that got brought in, oh, somebody died, and you're now stuck in the hell loop with everyone else.
True.
I love those games so much.
I do feel like that one also just shows that a gentleman thief can totally be someone who is either a fanboy or just really broke. They just want to make sure that the crime can just really get done. But can it though? Can it get done?
Okay. Well,
I know we're about at time.
we're all about was that a time, yeah. But that being said, so with this, that's what your thing with your gentleman thieves. They are going to be the criminals that we want to see succeed. That's sort of the weird case of that. You want to see how that is. This is sort of the case of, wait, so he stole all of this money? All these artifacts? How? Tell me how the sausage is made in this one. And that's sort of where your case is. And then anytime you're doing a gentleman thief, they're professional. They're dapper in most cases. They've got they're very, very suave. But for the most part, you kind of just want to see them succeed. You want to know which way that they're if they're going to win or not. Because ultimately, with their apprehension to violence, they're not really. All they're hurting is stealing someone's stuff, and all they're stealing is from the top guys who put up a giant series of locks. I'm waiting for that modern day Lupin to go through when he's actually, which if you're trying to go against the biggest vault, biggest vault and biggest set of security in the world,
Dogecoin.
Oh,
Are
the
you about to
obvious
bring up
choice.
Fallout?
To the moon.
Oh, I was gonna go with it's in Atlanta, Georgia. It's the headquarters of Coca-Cola.
Oh,
The formula for the Coca-Cola.
Oh God.
The Coca-Cola formula is split into two parts, and the only way to get the second half of that is to break into that giant vault.
Do you think they have Coca-Cola sponsored snipers?
I mean,
Just as a closing thought.
I mean,
Anyway.
more than likely, where do you think the secret flavor comes from?
I mean,
Anyway, this is GTP.
Gaming Theater
Gaming Theater.
Podcast, and we do weird things about this, study storytelling and storytelling aspects, and occasionally game design and game stuff.
Yeah, we
video
do.
games, anime.
We talk about whatever we find
History.
a cool theme on. We're going to have a Mad Max one coming up, which I'm super jazzed for. But yeah, we do gaming, media, anime, movies, TV, all kinds of stuff. So if you liked this, you want to hear more, definitely give us a listen at Gaming Theater Podcast.
Any type of fandom love that you have, odds are we will be able to talk about it.
We're eclectic enough. Somebody likes it.
Let's not go into our 4-part Pokemon episode.
Yeah.
We're up to 5.
Or, you know,
We're
the
wrapping up.
hey,
the
we-
2-part game war or console war
Wars.
that didn't include handhelds.
You are getting your handheld.
Didn't include
We're gonna get a
handhelds
handheld.
in the
It's quite clear
conversation.
over there across the table.
We're in a internal war.
They are such a console.
really.
Totally console.
Anyway.
Okay,
Anyway.
we gotta go.
Where can they find us on the internet?
They can find us on the internet if you just generally search for Gaming Theater Podcast. At this point, we are on pretty much everything. We're on Audible, Spotify, Apple, iTunes.
Pick your
podcast
podcast service and that's not a specialized one. I don't think we're on Wondery because that's not.
Can also find us on YouTube, TikTok,
Yeah.
social media in general.
Yeah, Instagram, Twitter.
Twitter.
If you type
Okay.
Gaming Theater Presents, statistically you will find us.
Yeah.
Or somebody
Okay.
else. Maybe they're cool too, though. You know.
We will go on forever, so we're
But-
gonna
but
wrap it up
either way,
now.
try to find us.
Thank you guys so
Thank you
much
guys
for
so
hanging
much
out
for
with
coming.
us.
Appreciate
so
it.
much for coming in.
Gaming Theater Podcast is hosted, created, produced, and edited by Leo Garcia, the Geek Scorpio. Our music is A Drinking Game. Stock media provided by Stormwave Audio /Pond5. Our cover art is by Adam Parker. You can find him at ParkerGFX on Twitter. If you want to send us some money to help with these episodes, you can do so at patreon.com/gamingtheaterpresents. Want to send support that doesn't hit your wallet? Please leave a review with wherever you hear your podcasts and share our podcast with your friends. It really helps out. Thank you for listening.